Hello and welcome to Gritty Reboot, the show where we make fun of TV's dark side. I'm Sarah Dunaway, and with me is our very own cinephile and car enthusiast, Kevin James. How's life treating you, Kevin?
Well, I may be homeless and jobless, but the only real problem I have is that I'm physically incapable of wearing suspenders correctly. They just hang down from my pants.
Oh, they're very useful that way.
Oh, absolutely. Speaking of the opposite of useful, with us today, we have some Southside trash coming to you live from a tattoo parlor / vape shop in a dark alley, Hunter Markham.
Hey, how are you guys doing? I'm just, getting some fresh ink over here.
It's finally starting to be winter over here. The grass is frosting over. Temperatures are hovering around 33 degrees.
Oh, wow, warmed up over here. Most of my snow's gone. Okay, I am coming into this guns blazing because, like every episode of Riverdale, this had things that I loved, things that I hated, and more than that, things that I'm completely baffled by.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. A lot of all of that.
There's so much that I was confused by. I don't understand most of our characters' motivations, so...
They have motivations?
I'm trying, at this point, I'm looking for symbolism and weird things so I can kind of try and parse out and see if the writers are leaving us a breadcrumb trail, but it may be confusing me even more.
They're definitely giving us breadcrumbs. I don't think they're in a trail. They may be in a circle.
Yeah, there's just random breadcrumbs everywhere where I'm looking at things like posters in Jughead's hideaway being like, is this a clue to the plot?
You didn't fire up the renowned search engine Sleuthster to figure out what it all meant?
Yeah. Okay, I'm glad I wasn't the only one that was like, wow, there's a search engine that's just for internet stalking?
Yeah, Facebook.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
We generally talk about the episode titles for these shows, and this one was a strange one for me, because it was called The Last Picture Show. I've read about half of that book. I remember it being dull as dog shit and putting it down. I've never seen the movie, but I don't see any connective tissue between that movie and this episode of the show.
There is not. It is a very literal title in that this is the last time a movie is being shown in a place. It has no connection to the actual Last Picture Show movie, which I have seen. I have to tell you, it's one of the most critically acclaimed films ever made, but I do not like it. I imagine for many of the same reasons you don't like the novel it was based on. It is just a very tonally one-note movie. It's made with too much talent and skill to call it outright bad, but it's a chore to watch because it's laser focused on depression in small towns, and it hammers that point in at every opportunity.
Yeah, I'm a big Larry McMurtry fan. I love Lonesome Dove. That's possibly my favorite book of all time. But this book was not one that got me when I was trying to read it. It's a slog. So I imagine the movie was sort of the same way.
Well, let me tell you the plot, and you can decide. So the movie is about a girl trying to lose her virginity so that she can then have sex with a different schoolmate who comes from a family that has a fortune, so that she can trick him into marrying her so she won't live a horrible life of depression with her current boyfriend, whom she despises. But that fails, and so, as part of her depression, she decides to go and have sex with her mother's boyfriend instead, whom she also despises. Meanwhile, a different classmate who's having an affair with a different older woman, whose husband is a closeted gay man who doesn't love her, he drops that older woman so that he can pursue the first girl once she's available, and they go to elope, but their parents stop them from eloping. Meanwhile, a completely separate group of other characters take a mentally disabled boy to a prostitute in Mexico so they can watch him lose his virginity for their amusement, but he gets hit and killed by a truck.
Gee, this is just dark.
Well, I mean, okay, there are pieces of that, though, that actually sound like they have to do with the episode. The classmate having an affair with an older woman, and then parents breaking up the relationship, maybe.
No,
Plus the whole part in Mexico that was in this episode with the truck,
Yeah, it's rough. I would describe it as What If American Pie, but instead of wacky hijinks, bitterness and isolation with an unending parade of cruel characters.
Wow, that's I just want to sit down with a nice cup of tea after a rough day, just relax and watch The Last Picture Show. They made choices with some of these titles. I think they just went with what sounded nice. And they do the same thing with these cultural references. Kevin, you've put together the ones for this episode, which I can play now. There might have been a couple others that I found on a rewatch because I have problems and I've seen this episode too many times.
Yeah, I see you caught a few that I missed.
First, let's take a listen to the ones that you very graciously dug up for us.
With Sheriff Keller knocking on every door, a neighbor suspecting neighbor, Riverdale, every day that passes, is becoming more like Salem during the witch trials. And meanwhile, the girl next door, our friendly neighborhood Hitchcock blonde, Betty Cooper.
The godfather of indie cinema, Quentin Tarantino, likes to say,
Please, God, no more Quentin Tarantino references. I'm thinking American Graffiti. Or is that too obvious?
I vote for anything starring Audrey Hepburn. Or Kate Blanchett.
Or the talented Mr. Ripley. Betty, your choices?
Maybe Rebel Without a Cause? I never would have given Veronica a spot on the Vixens. It's off-brand and sends a false message about acceptance.
After her TMZ-style takedown of Chuck, all the Vixens kind of like Veronica now.
Do they? Seaside High, Centerville High. Ever done this sort of thing before? Yes, last year. With Tomoko Yoshido and Jason Blossom. What's next? Selling her hair extensions?
My mom's a waitress, Cheryl, not Fontaine.
Okay, Miss Guyver. I learned that from the Nancy Drew Detective.
Okay, go.
Nice murder wall, True Detective.
Yeah, senior year, we're here watching Candyman. God, I hated that movie.
Archie, would you like to share with us what you and Mrs. Robinson have been doing during your music lesson?
Quite a few film references. Too many, really. I guess it makes sense that Veronica's into Audrey Hepburn.
Final nail in the coffin of her just being a stereotype.
No, I think you have forgotten. Cheryl may be a stock character from a 90s movie, but Veronica is not.
Oh, yeah, I did forget that. I forget Veronica exists from time to time in this episode.
She's a stock character from a 2010s TV show, so it's completely different.
Yeah, it's funny. She is a weirdly forgettable part of the show, and they really underline with the Kevin character that she's not supposed to be. He's like, I honestly don't remember what life was like without her. It's like, okay,
yeah,
if you say so.
You could remove her and I would not really notice or care. But sure, Kevin, yeah.
Yeah, she was vestigial in this episode. I would go so far as to say.
All right, so some of the references I think we have to explain. Seaside High and Centerville High, those are locations in the Archie comics. Tomoko Yoshido, who is weirdly renamed from what's supposed to be, I think, Tomoko Yoshida, is a character in the Archie comics. She's a recurring Japanese character. Fontaine is the prostitute in Les Miserables.
Yeah, that was the one. Oh, man. When I heard that come out of Veronica's mouth, my theory is this is Veronica's defense mechanism. When she feels threatened, much like a snake hissing or a porcupine rolling up into a ball, she just makes a really obnoxious reference, and every living creature tries to keep its distance.
Yes. Do we have to explain Miss Guyver? I feel like MacGyver is like a really widely known part of the culture.
I'm gonna go with somehow that survived from
Do you not
the
know?
70s.
Oh no, that needs no explanation.
Yeah, okay.
It was only weird that she said like Miss Guyver instead of MacGyver.
Yeah.
I know that there was one or two that didn't make it in here that I caught. One of them was when Jughead is in the diner talking about the closure of the Twilight Theater. He says that an anonymous buyer made Mayor McCoy an offer she couldn't refuse, which is an oblique reference to the Godfather line. Mm-hmm. And then the one that I didn't catch until very recently is Cheryl and her crew are sitting outside of Pop's, and she says something to the effect of, riddle me this, hair models of the damned, which I was like, that's such an odd line, it has to be a reference to something. Turns out it's a 2004 book called Hairstyles of the Damned, which, did you guys know that this existed?
No, or I would have clipped it.
I do have something really special for you guys that I found.
Oh, God.
I'm going to send you the link right now. I know it's before Christmas when we're recording this, but I think I found the perfect gift for both of you.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Someone literally put the Cheryl quote, "Riddle me this, hair models of the damned," and put that on a pint glass, and they're selling that online on Cafe Press.
You know, Hunter, we actually share a wine glass that says "Boo, you whore" on it, which is the famous Mean Girls quote.
This will fit perfectly alongside that.
Yes, our famous awkward movie and TV quote barware glass collection is really coming along.
I was so pleased that I found this, and I'll put a link to it up in the show and on Twitter, because I don't know why someone picked this line of all the things.
It's oddly beautiful, though. I love this so much. I think I like this better than a lot of what happened in the actual episode.
And Hunter, I think it's very sweet that you're trying to pretend like you didn't make these glasses.
Yeah, it was some bored, lonely person made them in their bedroom, clearly. Only took them 4 hours in Photoshop. Not that I would know.
Oh.
Yeah, so please, everyone buy one and support Hunter's project.
Yeah, all this money will go right back into this show.
All $10 of it.
Yeah, they're $10 a glass. How these glasses? I don't know. I don't know what glasses go for these days. The price seems high.
I mean, how could you have just one?
I'm gonna need a set of 6. What if my family comes over?
Exactly.
So should we get into the episode?
Absolutely.
That was actually not the answer I was expecting. I was hoping you would absolve us of, our responsibility of having to participate in this.
No, I think we've done enough damage here. But, opening of the show, what are your thoughts? What are your first notes on this beautiful episode?
Just every time they talk about things happening at the drive-in, One-Armed Scissor plays in my head, and then I'm distracted for like 3 minutes.
Okay, the original title for this episode was Relationship of Command.
Oh, yeah. You get it.
But then I stumbled across a better title as we went.
The thing I noted is that Jughead very compassionately compares the murder of Jason Blossom to the tragedy of the drive-in closing.
Yeah, he's just like, there's another tragedy equally as bad as an innocent teenager getting killed. This old movie theater no one goes to is being shut down. These things are equivalent.
Jughead says a lot of things in this episode that really, he gave my like for him as a character quite a few body blows. I can't say he's awful, but there were some rough choices made with his character.
Quoting Tarantino is a real low point for me.
Yeah.
Oof.
I was literally writing a Quentin Tarantino joke as he was ranting in the diner, and then I unpaused, and he said the words Quentin Tarantino. And I feel like I've really captured his character. But in the opening monologue, he talks about how the town's kind of getting turned into this madhouse of investigation. And we show our intrepid investigator, Sheriff Keller, interviewing several different people who are connected to the murder, and some that couldn't be connected to the murder, because he's interviewing Veronica and her mother. They didn't even live in the town at the time Jason got murdered, even if it was a week after July 4th.
Where were you July 11th? New York, where we were living up until last week. Oh, yeah, that checks out.
Like, he's the worst detective of all time.
But also the truest.
Oh, God.
No, he really is the worst, because he keeps all of his murder investigation notes in his house, not at the police station.
Yeah, he also still does everything hard copy instead of, I don't know, keeping some sort of digital version of things, which is a problem a lot of our characters seem to have.
Yes.
Yeah, his murder wall is at his house. None of it makes any sense because I don't think we've seen the police station yet at this point in the season, but there is a legitimate facility where one
spoilers.
could, conduct an investigation.
Maybe he's like a work from home type of cop.
I guess so. It seems like there should be rules against, taking a bunch of files home with you, but what do I know?
It's It's pretty weird. The other thing I liked is that Betty, after Jughead's narration, Betty is like, oh my god, Grundy was at the river. She was probably there with Archie. That seems like a very leap to conclusions type of assumption. Like, how big is Sweetwater River? She's like, oh, there's no one else she could have been there with. Like, it must be the size of a slip and slide that she's just like, where else could she have been except right there with Archie?
Right next to Archie.
She could have just been alone there. They could have been separate areas.
Well, no, not only were they probably together, but she then assumes they were probably, like, together. Which, I mean, she's absolutely right. If two people are at the same public park at the same time, they are absolutely having a torrid affair. So, big shout out to everyone that Kevin and I saw at the park yesterday. Let's do that again sometime soon.
I'm gonna say, I've been to several parks, and I, like, just normal stuff. I was just hanging out with my friend and her kid. There was no torrid affair.
Yep.
Hey, this is the world of Riverdale, and Betty is a sleuthster, as we all know. And directly after Jughead's voiceover, which bleeds into Betty's voiceover, we get Archie and Luke Perry at Grundy's, I don't know, do you call it recital when it's adults, or is that just for kids?
I believe this is Riverdale's annual Gazebo Cello Festival.
Oh, that's better.
I think recital's an okay word for it. I don't actually know the official term. Let's go with recital.
I wanted to have Luke Perry go a little bit further in this, because he kind of seems like he's hitting on Miss Grundy. Like, am I wrong?
Oh, he's for sure hitting on Miss Grundy, but very weird that he would, first of all, assume that she's going to be eating alone that night. Like, why? Just like because she's a band geek? I don't get it. And then also inviting her out with his son, which also seems like a weird move.
I wanted a little clip where Luke Perry's talking to Archie like, this is going to be a lesson for you, son. Let me teach you how to wine 'em, dine 'em, and 69 'em.
Oh, God.
Time for you to learn how to be a good wingman, son.
Yeah, just, back me up here. I'm trying to get it in. And
And of course, when he invites her to dinner, there is only one restaurant in this town.
God.
And everyone is there. The whole town is at Pop's.
By the way, we will discover later that there are 2 high schools in Riverdale. 1 restaurant. It makes complete sense when you think about it.
It's so weird because this is a town that seems like it got its first traffic light like just a couple years ago. And yet they have whole gangs apparently.
I'm continually baffled by this because I live near a town that has a population of around 6,000 people, and there's still like a downtown with at least a handful of restaurants within walking distance of each other. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Pops was a great set. They invested a lot into it. Everyone has to be there.
That set is actually really cool. I do like how it looks.
Yeah, I mean, I like it, but sometimes, like, maybe they could go somewhere else.
Yeah, but no, where else could everyone run into each other? As we find out that the Twilight Drive-In is a known crack den. You know, what all small towns are known for.
Is this a commentary on, like, the methamphetamine epidemic?
It's a nail in the coffin of the American dream, Hunter.
Yes. Thank you for quoting Jughead. He's the only one who can see these things clearly. He's just in there flipping out because no one wants to go to a drive-in theater, and he has the thinnest defense for it that I've ever heard anyone make.
Well, it's a place where you can buy crack cinephiles and cars enthusiasts. Like, what else could you want?
There's no person who's like, yeah, I'm going to the drive-in because I'm a car enthusiast.
Yeah, that is so odd. It's like, oh, I'm a chair enthusiast. I'm going to go to a normal movie theater.
I don't know. He's just flipping out. And I think it's revealed later he has some ulterior motives and some better reasons for it. But he just seems like a total dweeb in this, where he's like, everyone's home watching their digital video discs. They've never even seen Blade Runner, the definitive cut.
Wow, Hunter, you just transformed into Jughead for a second there.
Yeah, I'm really channeling him, and Betty pays about as much attention to him as Archie does to her.
Though, when she suggests Rebel Without a Cause to him, like giving him a little bit of ribbing, they give this really cute smirk to each other. Was I imagining things, or was there some chemistry there?
I saw that too. I made a note of it on my second watch because I didn't catch it at first. Sarah, you're being suspiciously quiet considering you know where this is going.
I mean, it's interesting also that he picked her movie that she suggested. Just things that happened.
Hey, Betty's drinking a strawberry shake. She's a totally different woman. She doesn't have vanilla today.
She's really evolved.
That symbolism. It's either her soul is darkening or she still wants Archie's dick.
She's still thinking about
Maybe
that red.
both.
Or maybe Cheryl's dick. Who knows?
Ooh.
Okay, speaking of Cheryl, did you catch the weird, was there underage drinking going on in this scene?
Oh, if there was, I missed it.
Okay, I may have gone off way too far here. Cheryl's in the booth with her two cronies, and she leans over, pours something red from a bottle into their glasses, and I thought, oh, maybe she's just, adding syrup flavoring. I don't know how things work in milkshake shops. But then later, when they're outside of Pop's in her car, her friends are sitting in the passenger seat and they're just swigging from this bottle. Was there supposed to be something that was sort of illegal going on, or am I reading way too much into people casually sipping on grenadine as one does?
I don't know. It seems like it could go either way. The show really failed to highlight it if it was supposed to be underage drinking, though.
Oh, have they not revealed that Cheryl and her cronies are all vampires? Has that not happened yet?
Oh, see,
it's just a blood flask,
Okay, because it was bright red, and I was like, "That's not lean. It's not alcohol would have to be something like cinnamon schnapps or something like that, which is an odd choice for kids."
Oh God, cinnamon schnapps sounds awful.
It's disgusting.
Who else drinks that other than kids, though?
True.
Someone without any taste. But yeah, and so we learn also that whoever bought the Twilight Drive-In, it was an anonymous oh God, this is my Ogden from 370 pages. An anonymous buyer, which it's a town of 15 people who all live in a chocolate shop. How is there an anonymous buyer?
There's only one person with money in this entire town, as to my knowledge, and that's Cheryl.
Yeah.
So that would have been my first thought, because her family, as we saw in the beginning, they were being interviewed in their greenhouse room with orchids and bonsai trees, and I just imagine they live in the Clue mansion.
Yes. Basically, you are correct.
Yeah. Who else can leverage that kind of cash?
Well, I think we'll find out later in this episode that we've all already seen.
But naturally, Archie, Grundy, and an unsuspecting Luke Perry just wander into Pop's because it's the congregation spot for everyone in town, and Betty decides that she's had enough of talking to her diary and it's time to face the real thing.
Yeah, this was a fantastic scene because Betty applies the barest bit of pressure and Archie just spills everything immediately. Yeah. It's incredible.
He spills the beans faster than an earthquake in a chili factory.
Yeah. It's just immediate. And then the way she asks it too, are you guys together, romantically? No, she's 34 and he's 15. That's not romantic, Betty. What is wrong with all of these people?
It's baffling. Everyone reacts so weirdly to this, but my favorite is Archie tries to mount a very mediocre defense.
It's not what you're thinking.
So it's platonic.
Okay, well, maybe it's a little like what you're thinking.
Archie.
Look, it's not what you think. And Betty goes, oh, it's platonic. He goes, oh, wait, no, not like that. That's not what I meant. He's like, look, I want to defend myself, and I also want you to know I've had sex. Please think I'm cool.
He could have just denied it because she has no real evidence, but instead he instantly opens his trap while Veronica's clacking up in her high heels, which can't be silent, so she overhears everything.
Yeah, and she delivers one of the first terrible lines of the episode.
Well, what is Grundy to you anyway? Your girlfriend? Your booty tutor?
I don't know.
That was my number one worst. This episode was also almost titled Booty Tutor.
Yeah. She also says, you and your music teacher having an affair, and I just want to point out the proper nomenclature is duet.
Betty brings up for like half a second that it's illegal. And then that gets swept aside.
Yeah.
Veronica's totally into it. She's like, oh, you and Grundy.
Tell me more.
Ooh, it's scandalous.
And then Archie says that Grundy is the first person who's ever believed in him, which is very plausible because no one has ever believed in a handsome white boy who's good at football. Obviously. Thank God Grundy came around.
Yeah. Betty looks all sad, though, because she was incredibly supportive of his music. And he just seems like a complete jerk, and he has no regard for the person that he says is his best friend in the world.
I also don't know how she's the only one who supported him, because he came forward about the music, like, again, in the timeline of the show, like 2 weeks ago, and he came forward first to Betty about it.
Also, how do you, like, what is unsupportive if your friend says, I play the guitar now, and you're like, cool. Like, what else are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
You're 15. I don't know.
That's great, Archie. I booked you for a tour at all the Pop's chocolate booths across this restaurant.
His dad built him a practice space in the garage. Everyone's bending over backwards to be supportive of him.
But they're not sleeping with him, are they?
Yeah.
That's what support really means.
Betty would've.
That's actually very true.
Okay, here's the other thing. Alice Cooper comes roaring up, doing 35 in a 25 zone, just pulls an e-brake and slides to a stop in front of the crew. Why is she just showing up there randomly to pick up Betty?
I like to imagine that Alice Cooper just drives by the diner, like on a loop every half hour, hoping Betty's there so she can scold her. Like, that's just what she does all night long.
The only note I have for this section is that as Alice Cooper pulls up, she should have said, "Get in, losers, we're going shopping."
Like, who called her? Who wanted her there?
Well, we find out later that she spies on Archie as he sneaks out of the house. I think she just has cameras everywhere.
I think Archie's also the least sneaky person ever, considering the entire town, by the end of this episode, knows every single secret he has.
It's impressive.
He's really bad. Mrs. Lodge is also very bad at sneaking, as we see later in the episode. I know I'm jumping ahead, but she looks behind her like every 3 seconds as she's going behind the drive-in, as if to be like, oh no, everyone watch out, I'm doing something scandalous.
Okay, that leads to the perfect point where we have Cheryl and her crew outside the diner, and they see Hermione arguing with this dude, and that's where it starts getting all, like, we get another secret plot going on here.
Yes, she's talking to a Southside Serpent, and Hunter, I just have to ask you, how many rewatches did it take you to catch on to the fact that that is a dick joke?
I didn't get that until I was trying to write about a note about Kevin hooking up with that guy at the theater.
Joaquin.
And Joaquin. And any way I wrote it sounded like I was making a dick joke even when I wasn't.
Oh, you mean when Joaquin surprises Kevin with his snake? Yeah, I think it's...
I wrote the sentence like, Kevin gets some Southside Serpent. And I'm like, no, like, I'm not trying to be that gross. But
it is what it is.
I just like that there's apparently a gang turf war in this small town where nothing bad was ever supposed to happen. You just know that sooner or later the Southside Serpents are going to get into a tussle with the Northside Hooters and the Backside Cabooses.
I'm so shocked that this town has a south side, because it's supposed to be a small town. I'm shocked that they have a criminal element that's so well known. And I'm also shocked that their main activity seems to be making a ruckus at a drive-in.
Pretty serious gang activity.
After this beautiful moment where all the plot lines start to explode at Pops, Betty gets real detective-y, and by that I mean she goes to Sleuthster.
Mm-hmm. Not web sleuths, but Sleuthster.
Wait, is web sleuths a real thing?
Uh-huh.
Do I want to know what you use this for? Did you check up on Kevin before you went out with him?
Oh, no, this is all just true crime. People trying to solve true crime cases over the internet, and sometimes being really helpful to cases.
Oh, okay.
It's a different thing.
I don't know anything about true crime. That's a side of podcasting I haven't ever set foot in.
Well, true crime is mainly about white women, so a lot of white women are into it. It's like our version of history or politics, where we're like, oh, there's someone here I can relate to. That girl getting killed.
Yeah, history's definitely the white guy thing.
Mainstream history is just like, these white men are doing things.
Yeah, it's... But yeah, she goes sleuthing, and, like, Miss Grundy did a horrible job constructing her identity, because in the span of a jump cut, Betty has found out that all of her identities were constructed a year ago. Like, that's when her LinkedIn and Facebook went up. The original Miss Grundy died 7 years ago.
Yeah, and this begs the question, how bad is Riverdale High at vetting their applicants if they hired this woman who clearly has no real past?
I had a whole rant about this because
Please go on.
Schools vet you really thoroughly. Like, I get fingerprinted more often than I assume most criminals get fingerprinted, because that's just how working with children works. And they don't even consider you for a position until they've checked all of your references. So the idea that she would just be able to waltz in with a fake identity and get a job at a public school, it just wouldn't happen.
Yeah, like, what did she do? Suck this job out of Principal Weatherby's bolo tie?
Well, I think you're neglecting her incredible talent for holding cellos. They couldn't let that pass up.
That was one of the first things of, like, what the hell's going on here? There's no way they would have hired this person who doesn't have any real references. This is a fake identity. But beside the point, Archie doesn't really, like, act on this. Even when Betty tells him, hey, I interviewed this lady, she had an independent study with Jason Blossom, who turned out dead. This is kind of suspicious.
Also, during this conversation and this actual plotline, they keep cutting back to people trying to figure out why Hermione and the Southside Serpent were having a conversation, as though this were something that's like a pressing need to discuss because it's so important, that two adults were having a conversation one time. Yeah.
Well, it looked like it was getting pretty heated, as we could see from that still photo.
Yeah, that didn't mean anything. The video would have been a lot better. Cheryl's kind of terrible at this.
Yes.
And Veronica, I don't know, her mom lies to her in like 6 seconds.
Though I think the real crowning moment of terrible in this episode is when Archie confronts Jughead in between all of this about, like, why did you tell Betty about Miss Grundy and me? Jughead always says, like, no, like, Betty found out on her own. But he says, like, the most horrible, callous thing about all of this. Archie is, like, very much like, I just want to hold on to Miss Grundy for as long as I can. And Jughead said to me, like, look, you're clearly being abused. Like,
Yep, feel that. Trying to hold on to something a lot older than me, too.
I liked that line. I thought it was funny.
It's funny, but, like, man, Jughead, think of your friend for a second. Like, help, I'm being preyed upon. Yeah, well, my drive-in is closing.
I mean, Archie doesn't really do himself any favors, because when he finally does talk to Miss Grundy, he's like, oh, tell me about you. And she says, what do you want to know? His response is, I don't know, stuff.
Yes, I
Classic
noted that.
Archie.
That's an audio clip. It's so beautiful.
What do you want to know?
I don't know. Stuff.
Look, you can't expect Archie to, like, have too engaging of thoughts this episode. He managed to keep his shirt on the whole episode, and I assume the debilitating anaphylactic shock of that is just eating away at his brain.
Oh man, I didn't realize we didn't get shirtless Archie. Wow.
No, we didn't. I thought it was a very realistic portrayal of men attempting to talk to women. Do you like stuff?
What are you into? Makeup?
Things?
Oh, yeah. Oh, but I did make a little note for you, Hunter, after your Jughead is a ghost prediction. Miss Grundy must be a dead, sexy ghost. That's what she is.
Why? Wait.
Because the original Miss Grundy is dead. So clearly this Miss Grundy just came back from the dead. She is a spectral figure haunting the school. She's a ghost.
It explains the wardrobe.
Yes, okay. Her wardrobe is terrible. And I think they go out of their way to make her seem unattractive, and it makes me question why Archie's so into her. It's a The choices are bizarre here.
Up until the ending, we're at the very end, they're like, all right, now she doesn't have to dress like a grandma. Let's give her booty shorts, some Lolita sunglasses, a crop top.
Complete 180. It was interesting how they just throw in there that Jason Blossom played an instrument. Unless was Grundy tutoring him on football? Like, I don't know what. This is a brand new information, and they just kind of throw it away.
Oh, yeah, true. Like, we never get any explanation of, oh, he was great at this one instrument, or his real passion was violin.
No, nothing.
Not even a hint of an oboe in any of the photos of him.
No, he's just always there with his red hair, playing football, smiling, being creepy.
Yeah, being spectral and weird and dressed all in white.
Uh-huh.
They're trying to throw as many things at the wall as possible because I'm not sure they know how to resolve this mystery.
Yeah, this train is not quite off the rails, but it is definitely, like, shaking loose of them.
It's precariously placed, but Jughead, meanwhile, because he doesn't give a shit about Archie's problems, decides to go to the mayor and talk to her about the drive-in. And she gets way creepier here than I feel like we've ever seen her before in this series.
Yeah, she seemed so, like, superficially friendly the last few times we see her. So to all of a sudden be like, oh, also she's a corrupt politician taking bribes. Like, that was an interesting, sudden uncovering.
Yeah, but Jughead starts talking about his family. We find out his sister's name is Jellybean. And I just wanted the mayor to be like, what's your mom's name? Charleston Chew? There's just, I know it's from the comics, but we also find out in the comics at a certain point that Jughead has a real name, and I would think at a certain point in his life he would be like, hey guys, please stop calling me Jughead, that's not actually my name.
Yeah, and this whole development thing, we find out Andrew's construction is they won the contract to demolish the Twilight Drive-In, which is a shock to us that this town has more than one construction company, apparently.
Yeah, it's a small town. There's, the South Side construction company, too.
Obviously. Also, Mayor, what's her name?
McCoy.
Mayor McCoy. She refers to the Twilight Drive-In as prime real estate, and I was just wondering how something can be, like, known as a drug-infested slum, but also be prime real estate.
It's in a good part of town, though.
What?
It's really high-quality crack.
It's so good, the drugs. The heckling is top-notch.
They really get their references down. Like, I don't think I've ever heard a more clever riff on Citizen Kane before.
Wait. Is there a riff on Citizen
No,
Kane?
Hunter, this is all a joke.
Oh, okay. I'm just like, oh my god. Like they're just doing a Mystery Science Theater style
Yes,
thing?
that's what I'm thinking.
Oh my god.
They just sit there behind the Twilight Drive-In. They're writing their lines. They're rehearsing together while Jughead is, like, rewinding and spooling the film. They have it down.
What if they're back there like, well, this was... A scene was deleted here that was in Orson Welles' original script that really gives more context to this film.
Yeah, they're writing sketches that they petition Jughead to pause the movie theater so they can reenact. I don't know who would pause their creative endeavor to make up sketches for their audience. That sounds beneath people.
Sounds like something only idiots would do. I would never lower myself to something like that. Stick to the facts.
We would never, for instance, invent an entire biker-based spin-off for Archie Comics and then script that out as a joke.
Yeah, we didn't have to because it exists.
Oh, I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, I think we might as well get into it now, since you brought it up. Because the Southside Serpents kind of come out of nowhere in this series, it seems strange to me. I did some digging. I still have some friends back in LA, even though I've moved away from there. It turns out they want to do a sequel series to Riverdale.
Oh, really? Interesting.
With Sons of Anarchy off the air, there's been a gap in the motorcycle drama marketplace. So the follow-up to Riverdale is planned to be called Sons of Anarchy. And I actually have the first few pages of the spec script here. I would like us to give it a cold read. Sarah, if you could handle the descriptions. Kevin, I would love it if you would play the part of Jughead, and I will play the part of Archie.
Exterior roadside, day. A man climbs up from the roadside ditch beside a dusty U.S. highway. We see torn leather boots, ripped jeans, and ripped muscles because he's shirtless beneath a leather vest. His chest is tattooed with a giant eagle. In one talon it clutches a pistol. In the other talon, a bigger pistol. The man puts a cigarette to his lips and lights it. My God, he's handsome in that I'd write letters to him while he's in prison type of way. His eyes are narrowed. His brilliant red hair blends into the rust-colored stubble on his cheeks. This is Archie Blood Eagle Andrews. Jughead Jones stands beside two lowrider Harleys parked at the side of the road, wearing his trademark crown helmet.
You bury it, Archie?
Only way it ever gets uncovered is if the goddamn San Andreas fault rips open.
You said that last time. You never dig deep enough.
I hate digging. Reminds me of working construction for my old man, which is how I got hot.
You ever wonder if we made a wrong turn?
No, this is the right place.
Not here, Archie. In life.
I don't care if it's wrong turn 2, dead end, or even a wrong turn 6, last resort. I don't believe in wrong anymore. Not since Geraldine left and took my boy with her.
Of course she did. She's a child predator and you had turned 18. She couldn't just keep passing up all those hot 14-year-olds forever.
A tear wells in Archie's eye, but he's too manly and rugged to let it fall. A hawk dives from the air and rakes the tear off his face with its talons. It is indescribably badass.
Damn it, Chuggy. That was 15 years ago. Back when things made sense. Before our first stint in the Hooskow. Back when all I had was a dream, a girl, and a 6-string. Now the only music I make is when I'm rattling a tin cup on steel bars.
What did you expect, Arch? We got jumped into a 1% biker gang. I've been in and out of prison 3 times. Veronica's running an underground drug ring. Betty's a stripper.
Dancer. She's a dancer.
Sure, whatever makes you feel better about not paying child support.
Archie circles around the Harley, closer to Jughead. His hand goes to the back of his pants, where we see a gleaming pistol butt.
What does that mean?
Nothing, man. I guess sometimes I don't feel like a natural-born killer.
Archie slams his fist into Jughead's stomach. Jughead falls to the ground, crown helmet flying from his head and cracking against the hot California asphalt. As he raises his exposed head, Archie's pistol presses into Jughead's temple.
What did I tell you? What did I tell you about the references, motherfucker?
I'm sorry.
One more Pulp Fiction reference, just one more. I'll be quitting tearing into your fucking neck. You'll be gone in 60 seconds, motherfucker. They'll have to change my name to Archie Bon Jovi because I'll be wanted, dead or alive. I'm about to bring your apocalypse now. I'll be infamous from here to eternity. Now I got one question for you, punk. Tell me, are you ready to meet Joe Black?
I feel like you're being just a little bit of a hypocrite right now.
Why do you always have to use those damn vocabulary words? That's one of the 10 things I hate about you.
Archie tips the gun up, replaces it in the back of his pants, and straddles his Harley. Still visibly shaken, Jughead picks up his helmet. It has a large crack, but it is not completely broken yet, much like the trust between him and his one-time best friend. It'll do for now, but how much longer will it, and they, last? Jughead gets on his own bike and fires it up. As they ride away, the camera slowly pans down into the ditch, where the blowing wind whips at a recently disturbed patch of dirt and exposes a pale hand with a giant red spider ring.
Wow, that was something. I think they've really found the right tone for this script.
They want to see these characters mature and go to an even darker, grittier, and more real place than we've seen them so far.
I can't.
I know that, yeah. I gotta find a segue back here. So meanwhile, while we're getting sort of this backstory about the Southside Serpents, which is so important to the creators of this show, they're still finding ways to move the plot of Riverdale along, because while Archie is easily distracted by Miss Grundy throwing herself at him, it's the perfect opportunity for Betty and Veronica to break into Miss Grundy's car.
Yes, I really liked when Betty said that she was looking for anything that proved that Miss Grundy wasn't as clean as she said she was. I don't know, how about, like, you know, raping your friend? Like, something like that could be not that clean. Like, you already have the material you need. You're done.
Yeah, everyone, we bring this up every time, but seriously, we have to hammer it home. Everyone is just so ambivalent about the fact that Miss Grundy is a child predator. We'll even see at the end of the episode, like, Alice is the only person who cares, and she only cares because it's a way to hurt Archie.
Most people seem to either accept Archie saying, like, no, it's totally fine, or they don't even bring it up. It's wild to me. It's borderline, I would say beyond borderline. It's messed up that they're not treating, like, a real child predator situation on the show the way it should be handled.
This show just has an unfailing instinct for dodging any potential drama. Like, every time there should be something worth actually focusing on, it just kind of gets shunted to the side while minor non-dramas pop up in their place. It's so weird.
Why would we focus on the statutory rape that's happening? Let's talk about two people having a conversation in a parking lot. You know? That's what's important here.
But I did like the break-in scene where we learned that Betty she has all of the necessary skills to be a very successful cat burglar.
How does she explains away her ability to break into cars. It's like, work on cars with my dad, which again, that's not really a common thing you have to do when you're working on your car.
She also says she learned something from the Nancy Drew handbook, which I would love to see what is in this. Like, step 1 into breaking into a car, step 2 in how to, like, catch the secret identity of a child predator.
Step 3, how to rig a bomb to the ignition of that car so that as soon as the driver turns it on, it blows up.
It's so crazy. Like, I admire her resourcefulness, but, like, at the same time as, like, she's figuring out how to effortlessly break into the car, she doesn't even figure out how to hide her diary so that her mom can't find it.
Oh, I have more on that. Because even after her diary gets found and her mom goes through it, she just makes another physical diary at the end of this episode. Like, have you heard of Google Docs?
Or, I mean, I feel like writing in code would be a really obvious step, too. If she knows how to break into...
Please, that's not the Nancy Drew handbook.
Okay, fine.
I feel like there was a Nancy Drew book that involved invisible ink.
Yes.
But yeah, so they learned that Miss Grundy isn't Miss Grundy's real name. She's really, say it with me, Jennifer Gibson.
All right. This means one thing. She chose the name Geraldine Grundy for her new life. She picked that out of any name. She could have been like Raquel Friction or Chastity Belafontaine or anything. And she's like, I'm going to be Geraldine Grundy.
Well, they sort of implied that she stole the deceased Geraldine Grundy's identity. I don't know what that means, how far she went. If she got her social security number and birth certificate, I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, I don't know why she picked that one other than that was the name of an Archie Comics character. Mm-hmm. Like, I understand in, like, our reality why the showrunner picked that for her name. I don't understand in the world why the character picked that name of, like, such a recently deceased person who could be so easily findable.
Yeah, it's a baffling choice, but again, you're right. They just put it in there because they had to have Miss Grundy from the comics somehow in the show.
And they weren't going to put an old person in there. That would have been horrifying.
No, Luke Perry's already pushing it. Betty also finds a gun in the car, and not just any gun, but like one that looks like a 1970s cop would keep it in an ankle holster.
Oh, I forgot to mention a little note. Betty makes the funniest breaking into car faces I've ever seen. She looks like a cartoon character as she's breaking into this car. She's like, ooh,
They're so loud as they do it. They're speaking at a normal volume during this break-in, and they also get in and loudly slam the car doors. Like, the actors could have been coached to be like, hey, pretend you're actually breaking in and speak and act accordingly.
Well, Veronica doesn't seem to know that they're actually breaking in until they're into the car, and then she's like, all right, now that we've committed a felony, what's going on here?
Yeah, it smells like Archie fuck in here.
Well, maybe they're just really trusting that Archie can keep Miss Grundy very busy during their endeavor.
Well, he did appear to have rented a film projector for their date, which I guess that's going the extra mile.
Ooh,
He's not even a real cinephile. He didn't go to the theater.
He's not a car enthusiast either.
Yeah. They've got the gun, which no one who has a gun that looks like that has not committed a felony.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say that Betty takes the gun, which is really a really strange choice and also feels like no one in this town understands what crimes are.
Or how fingerprints work.
Like, you can't steal a gun from someone. You could get in a lot of trouble for that, Betty. You could go to jail.
I had the same thought, and as I sat around pondering this, because this is what I do with my free time now,
Yeah.
I was like, maybe she really thought that Miss Grundy was super dangerous to Archie and really thinks she's a murder suspect in the Jason Blossom case, and she's like, the only way I can protect Archie is if Miss Grundy doesn't have a way to turn on him and kill him. But even that was the thinnest thread, and her keeping the gun, honestly, you're right, didn't make any sense.
I definitely thought we were meant to think that she is a huge suspect in the Jason Blossom case now, with the private tutoring we just found out about, the being at the river at roughly that time, and the having the gun. But none of that is really drawn too much attention to. Like, as soon as the gun is there, everyone just kind of forgets that she's a suspect in that.
Yeah, that's something you go to the police and say, she has this gun, we know Jason was shot, we can potentially do ballistics work and match that gunshot wound and the bullet to this gun or not.
Right, and I mean, it's a really pretty plausible theory that maybe she and Jason were also engaged in, you know, an illegal activity, and that Jason was going to reveal that she was sleeping with him, and so she killed him. It makes some sense, but again is basically mentioned briefly and then completely discarded to resort back to fake drama.
Yeah, when Veronica and Betty confront Archie, he refers to all this as a witch hunt. So he's channeling Donald Trump at this point.
Yeah, he makes a plea to Betty. He's like, Betty, if you're really my friend, you'll stop investigating Miss Grundy. And my note here is, yeah, stop trying to figure out why this child predator is preying on me. If you're really my friend, you'll just let this happen.
I'm glad Betty just disregards that. But again, when they confront Archie as he's on his way home, she's like, hey, we just found an ID with the name Jennifer Gibson on it. Miss Grundy isn't who she says she is. And Archie responds with, then who is she? I don't know, probably Jennifer fucking Gibson.
Veronica had that same reaction too. I think people just can't process how names work, because when she finds the license, just Jennifer Gibson, who the hell is Jennifer Gibson? Miss Grundy is Jennifer Gibson. That's what that driver's license means.
Yeah, I don't know how they're not putting this together.
And then she is the one who corrects Archie later. She's like, duh, even I got this after Betty explained it to me.
Yeah, Betty has to explain everything to everyone.
She is the only competent character.
But they also call Archie out because he didn't do any sort of digging since his questioning of Miss Grundy was beyond incompetent. He doesn't do himself any favors, and he should be a likable character, but I feel like this show just hammers home the fact that he is a nonstop fuck-up.
Look, he asked her if she wanted to tell him about stuff. What else was he supposed to do?
Not like, hey, find it strange that you kind of popped up out of nowhere. What's your actual background?
Yeah, he does eventually ask her that stuff, and she gives a story about how she was in an abusive relationship and she's in hiding. Don't know how real that story is. It seems pretty likely that it's just made up to get Archie to stop asking, but I guess we don't really know for sure yet.
I think we're supposed to get that from the last scene, that was all made up.
Yeah.
She's a predator.
As soon as she said that, I was like, this is fabricated, and the reason she has to go after younger guys is because no adult male would actually buy that sob story.
And then we transition to Mayor McCoy's office again. We find out the anonymous buyer is Hermione Lodge, who brings back the giant pile of money from the first episode.
Finally! I was so excited to see that this came back because I've been asking for episodes what the fuck was going on with this throwaway scene that we saw in episode 1.
Apparently it is a real estate bribery scheme, which random time to bring that up.
Has nothing to do with the rest of the mysteries going on, but hey, let's see where this goes. I'm sure that the showrunners are going to wrap this all up in a tidy bow.
As always.
We also find out that as part of keeping her very low profile in Riverdale, Hermione still has a butler named Jeeves.
Wait, is it Jeeves or Smithers?
It's Smithers.
One of those.
It's Smithers.
Look,
Smithers.
Jeeves, Smithers, it's a cliche butler name.
Yes.
But she's super mean to him in this one 10-second scene that we get, which is, like you said, they have these 10-second scenes that are just random. And she just, I don't know, like, why did we have that moment?
I don't know.
No idea. Doesn't seem to mean anything at all.
Basically, she just says, I'm going to the movies with Luke Perry. And the butler's like, you're not an old lady. And she's like, fuck off, dude.
She says, obvious that was a joke, in the least joking tone I've ever heard.
Yeah.
It was weird.
It was really bizarre. And we do get a peek into the Sheriff Keller office. We were talking about how he just has a bunch of police files at home, which isn't as weird to me as the fact that the set decorator put all these pictures up that look like they're different shots of Grigory Rasputin hanging on the wall in the Keller house. Like, who has pictures from 1847 hanging all over their family home?
Ooh, no comment.
Yeah. Don't
that is my hobby, Hunter. Please do not judge. I think I told you when we were recording one of our other podcasts about the Hungarian revolutionary leader Kossuth, who came to power in 1848. Pictures of him all over my bedroom wall.
Naturally. Everyone's got a Kossuth or two laying around.
I guess we'll take down, some of the Rasputin pictures in the guest room if you ever come over, Hunter. Just if that makes you more comfortable.
Yeah. I'd rather not have him staring into my soul.
In a fairly cool scene, though, we learn that he knows about his son being gay, and he's all right with it.
A little too okay with it. I mean, isn't there a nice boy at your school is sweet, but then he's like, don't cruise in the woods until I catch this murderer, okay, son? Once that happens, I mean, you're 15 now, so have sex with all the strangers in the woods that you want, but, just wait until I catch that murderer first.
Which is very subtle foreshadowing for when he gets hot and heavy with a gangbanger literally 10 minutes later.
Yeah, I was in the same boat as Sarah, where I was like, wow, that's, really nice that he knows his son is out, and he's really supportive of him, but then he just steps over into this thing where he almost seemed to be like, no, you dudes always chasing after something. I don't know. It was a little bit too far.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's the Riverdale tagline. Riverdale, just a little bit too far.
Luckily, Alice Cooper is trying to keep things nice and wholesome around here when she tells Luke Perry that Archie and Betty should no longer spend time together. In another bizarre, tiny scene.
They just show up for 10 seconds and then leave after he says no.
And there's yeah, I see your son sneaking out all the time. He's an idiot.
How bad is Archie at sneaking out that people across the street also know when he's sneaking out?
Everyone knows everything Archie does.
It's like a town event. Archie sneaks out. People put up lawn chairs. They throw out blankets waiting on the curb all day.
He's just, you miss the scenes where he sneaks out, where he puts on a reflective vest, because he's like, well, I still have to remain visible on my midnight jogs. That's what my dad said. Yeah, then Alice finds the pistol in Betty's sock drawer, and naturally, as any parent would do, goes straight to Betty's diary to find more answers.
Yeah, and Betty just has them all written down there. So she knows everything immediately, and then in another bafflingly short scene, Betty knocks on her own home door, and Alice answers, holding the gun as if she's gonna shoot it, getting fingerprints everywhere. It's like, explain this, Betty.
And then just tosses it down on a table next to the door. Again, not at all concerned that this is a stolen gun. No worries.
I wonder what Mr. Cooper thought when he got home. Like, oh, just another snub-nosed revolver on the entryway, like, table hutch.
Regular Tuesday.
Stop leaving these guns everywhere. Goddamn women and their pistols.
And that brings us to the drive-in, which a lot happened here. Rebel Without a Cause is playing. Cheryl randomly shows up to hang out with Veronica and Kevin for no reason.
Okay, can someone explain to me why? Because she always is a complete dick to them, and then all of a sudden she's like, oh, my friends are hungover from yesterday. I guess I'll just start talking to you?
It's interesting. I feel like maybe they're trying to build, like, oh, Cheryl is popular, but no one really knows her, so she has to find her own friends. But it's not really coming across, and Riverdale is not really a show that can do subtext.
Yeah, I was like, maybe they're trying to go with this thing of she actually likes them, and she wants to make a human connection, but she still just comes across as a dickhead.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me either, so...
Hey, at least we have Veronica confronting those rowdy gang members.
So rowdy.
Oh my god, her line to them, I have to pull it up, because it was something.
It's bad.
Hey, you know what happens to a snake when a Louboutin heel steps on it? Shut the hell up or you'll find out.
Which reminded me of the very famous line from the first X-Men film. Do you know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? The same thing that happens to everything else.
Just really clever writing, and I think we had enough scenes of things or people getting stepped on with high heels in the last episode. I'm okay with us putting that behind us forever.
Yeah.
Everyone is trying to be sneaky, but really bad at it throughout this entire scene. Everyone is just like, oh, I'll just like tiptoe while looking behind me, behind this theater while there's a million people watching, and that won't look weird at all.
My favorite, though, is that Kevin is just the worst Snack Shack orderer of all time.
Yeah.
He goes up there, is like, I'll get these 3 things. The guy goes away, comes back. Oh, wait, 3 things more. Guy goes away, comes back. 3 things more.
And Cheryl specifically asked for a cherry cola, and he goes up there and he's like, give me a cola. He fucks up the order anyway.
Kevin is a bad friend. Like all Kevins, really. They are garbage. Can we agree?
Totally.
I can agree to that. I felt bad for Luke Perry because he gets curved really hard by Veronica's mom here, where he's trying to be all cute and charming, and she's just like, I'm going to go far away from you now.
I really want to know what happened to the end of that, because they both left each other. Who came back for the car? Like, did either of them even know that the other had left?
Oh, yeah, because while she's gone, Alice comes up, smacks on Luke Perry's window, and is like, I'm sorry to interrupt your adultery, which was my favorite line of the episode.
I was so thrown by that line because Archie's dad and Archie's mom are separated, right?
Yeah, but I guess...
mean, they certainly do not live together.
Yeah.
I'm not going to comment more, but...
Is it adultery if you are not the married one? Like, if he and Hermione were to get together, she's still married to Veronica's dad, so it'd be adultery on her part, right? But would it be adultery on his part?
He's still taking part in it. I think the Bible would say he was an adulterer.
Oh, yeah, it's not a
Who
moral...
isn't an adulterer, according to the Bible, really,
Exactly.
though?
It's not a moral thing to do. I just don't know if that's the right term for the other person in that triangle, I guess.
Does Alice Cooper care, though? She just wants to insult him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the way you were thinking, where he probably just took off right after that, and Hermione had to assume that she just got ditched at the drive-in.
Though I wanted to bring this up because Hermione's excuse for leaving the car is she wants to powder her nose. My note was, this is a known crack den, and powder your nose is a well-known, slang term for buying cocaine.
She said what she said.
Maybe Luke Perry was just like, it's gonna be just like it was in high school.
I was in an 80s show. I know all about this.
Oh. And after the order, Kevin and the Southside Serpent Joaquin, they just start making out.
Hey, I mean, the sparks flew. Joaquin's a good-looking guy. They get down.
Joaquin showed him his snake. It was beautiful.
I just guess the moose stuff is done. It's kind of weird we focused on that for 3 episodes.
Yeah, poor Moose.
And
live
then,
to bark another day.
and then Archie goes to Miss Grundy, who I guess just lives in the music hall at school, because that's where he finds her.
That was my thing, where I was like, A, why is she there after hours? B, how did he get in? And C, how did everyone else who shows up just know they were going to be there?
I also really enjoy the symbolism of this. Archie's like, this relationship is over. Close the curtains. Take a bow.
Yeah, he pawned a guitar to buy her a fancy cello bow, and I wanted Grundy to respond, but I pawned my cello to buy you a guitar pick.
But who pawns anything nowadays is my thing of like, he could have just said like, oh yeah, I sold a guitar on Craigslist.
Yeah, that would make more sense.
I've never even been inside a pawn shop. Have either of you been inside a pawn shop?
I saw the History Channel's incredible Pawn Stars a few times. That's almost like being in a pawn shop.
I've never been in a pawn shop because I want to live.
Exactly. Don't touch anything. You may get hepatitis.
But apparently everyone knows that this is just where Miss Grundy hangs out, because that's where Alice, Luke Perry, and Betty all come in, too.
But they interrupt what is a scene that was... Archie's breaking up with her ostensibly, but then they have this scene where they kind of are locking eyes, and they're definitely about to have breakup sex, which is in their like top 3 bangs is a breakup bang, and that's when everyone barges in, really killing the moment.
It would have been really cool if Mrs. Cooper had brought like the sheriff with her to this encounter, but instead she brings Archie's dad, which is going to be really useful.
That would have made so much more sense.
It's so weird. It's like it was written to give Miss Grundy a chance to get out of this, which is the least dramatic option. The whole thing is weird. No one seems to care that Miss Grundy is a child predator. Betty even gets a weird line where she says, "Why are you putting her on trial, Mom?" Like, she is a murder suspect and a confirmed statutory rapist. Like, this is literally the time to have a trial.
Yes. Like, she gets called a child predator. Like, that's what Alice says, 100% fact. Archie just says, no, I wanted all this to happen. And Luke Perry and Betty accept all of this completely.
It's so weird.
It's inexplicable.
And like we said before, Alice seems to be in it more to hurt Archie. Like, I'm going to turn in your girlfriend, and you're going to feel really bad about that. Like, it's clearly framed as something to punish Archie rather than like, no, this child predator really deserves to, like, be served justice.
We should be getting Archie some psychological support now. Yeah, I don't know why that's not the conversation.
Here's the thing. At the end of it, they're just like, oh, it's cool she quits her job and leaves town. Let's let the pedophile go somewhere else. That's their problem now.
It's so weird.
Good idea. We'll send her off. She can molest some different students. Fantastic. Good idea, everyone.
My note here is Grundy offers to escape, quit her job and leave town, and everyone is okay with the possible murder suspect fleeing in the night.
There's like, this will never be a problem.
And my last note is that Grundy holds her bow, her new bow, the worst way you can hold a bow. She just wraps her hand around completely. I don't know if you guys know this, but hand oils are really destructive to the horsehair they use to make bows, and she's just like gripping that part of it. It's like, no, what are you doing?
I didn't know this, but this doesn't surprise me at that attention to detail. I'm gonna guess, as talented as the actress is, that she knew absolutely nothing about playing cello when she got this job.
Oh yeah, I would for sure agree with that.
The show seems to argue that Miss Grundy isn't a predator because the quote-unquote good guys that we're supposed to be rooting for are all okay with her and Archie's relationship just ending, and that's all well and good.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Which, again, if the roles had been reversed and this was Betty dating a teacher, there's no way in hell that the storyline would resolve this way.
I mean, who knows? Maybe the writers are just that incompetent that it would resolve that way.
I hope not. I feel like there'd be a massive outcry, but maybe I'm putting too much credit in people.
And then that brings us to the confrontation between Veronica and her mom.
Yeah, because Veronica saw that her mom was talking to the same Southside Serpent from before at the movie theater and giving him money. So we know for sure that there's something criminal going on. And finally, Veronica's mom admits to it.
And in kind of like just a callous way, like, well, that's how you have nice purses, honey, so Just don't worry about it.
I did like her line, "Your father's sunk every last penny we have in the steal." She says in the same episode where we find she has a butler. And I also wrote down...
They also have a very nice house.
Yeah, it's like a penthouse.
Yeah, it's very ornate. It's lovely. It has clearly many rooms in it. I don't know why we're pretending like anyone is poor in that family.
But I also wrote down, "Look, Mija, you just have to accept that bribing drug dealers into destroying local businesses so that we can prey upon the decreased land value to build a real estate empire is just how things have to be."
Veronica seems to at least tacitly accept this. Meanwhile, Sheriff Keller's getting robbed, and his whole murder wall is gone, although they left the Grigory Rasputin portraits.
I mean, whoever stole all that stuff, they're not a complete monster. They know it's truly important to Sheriff Keller. Yeah. And then Betty and Alice have, I guess, a heart-to-heart. Betty's like, "Stop treating me like I'm Polly." And I just have to ask, like, how is the relationship between them not completely destroyed by this point? Because Alice really violated her daughter's privacy. She explicitly went after Archie with the intent to cause him harm. Betty has to be completely done with her at this point, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would be trying to move out, get emancipated if I were Betty.
Like, earlier she was literally threatening to go to jail in order to make it so that Alice Cooper's case against Miss Grundy would collapse. So it just seems like their relationship has to come to a head, although I'm sure Riverdale will find a way to avoid dealing with that very natural and organically built conflict that's been coming.
On the flip side, we've got Luke Perry over there, who's giving Archie fatherly hugs. And in the episode where Archie finally admits that he's stupid, Luke Perry goes and tells him he's not, which all evidence is to the contrary, Luke.
Yeah, parents always lie to their children. It's fine.
Though I think the person who has to take the crown for worst parent this episode is Jughead's dad, who we find out is the Southside Serpent leader, who knew that Jughead had been living at the drive-in movie theater and still took money to help close the drive-in down and make his son homeless.
Oh, jeez. I didn't really put all those pieces together, but when you say it like that, that is awful.
He's also the murderer from Scream, so, like, he's got a lot of cards stacked against him.
He is Skeet Ulrich, which is a lot to deal with.
It's a lot.
Yeah, anyone named Skeet, I'm a little suspicious of.
Yeah, we don't know his name yet, but I assume it is Jughead Jones II for obvious reasons.
Did you know the song Get Low is actually about Skeet Ulrich?
And it's just like, there should be a lot more of a confrontation between him and Jughead at the end when we find out that all this had happened. Instead of Jughead just being passively like, "I'll figure out where to live, Dad," he should be like, "What the hell, man? You knew this was my livelihood. You knew this is where I was living. Why would you do this to me?"
I don't know. That made very little sense. Just like Betty starting her other diary and probably putting it in the same exact place where her mom can find it again. And we see Miss Grundy setting a land speed record for recidivism. Like, she's not even out of town. She has her stuff packed in her car and she's already eyeballing guys. So clearly she didn't care about Archie. And clearly she's just looking for the next diversion from her own sad, pathetic, failed life.
I just can't believe that someone who would prey on underage children might be a predator. I'm shocked.
Who would have known? But it didn't even... She literally got caught in the act, I'm going to say 12 hours before, and she's back at it again.
Well, with how easily she escaped justice the last time, like, she probably just assumes, like, okay, I've got immunity at this point. The next kid who catches me and their parents barge in on me, I'll once again offer to leave town, and they'll inexplicably let me do it.
She's got a false sense of confidence now. And, oh yeah, Jughead leaves his beautiful little Havel, and he does some American graffiti of his own.
Oh, God. Oh. Hunter, you are canceled.
I was waiting for that joke. And, no, okay. This is where I was reading far too into things because in Jughead's den, he's got a poster for the film The Bad Seed, which is about a daughter who, like, drowns a kid and is showing signs of being a serial killer. And I was like, maybe we're meant to believe that some daughter is the killer in this show. So that would probably point either like Polly or Cheryl.
Ooh, or Jellybean.
We haven't seen Jellybean Bryant over here.
She's in the photo.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say I can't assume that an off-screen character is the killer, but I did just say Polly, so no, Jellybean is just as valid as any other guess.
This is Riverdale. It could be someone we've never heard of yet.
Oh no, I thought I'd met all the characters by now.
Yeah, and that's kind of the episode. The show has successfully avoided any drama. Everything has fizzled, and I have no idea where it goes from here.
To wrap up, Jughead's homeless. Grundy's out of the picture, so there's one murder suspect that we can't question. Kevin found love that isn't Moose. Betty's still friends with Archie because he'd be dead without her.
Oh yeah, he just randomly forgives her. He's like, "Oh, I know you were helping."
That made no sense because he was like, I know you were just trying to help. All she did was write in her diary. She wasn't trying to do anything.
Yeah.
It was her mom.
Though you'd think she would know with how crazy her mom is, like, hide your diary, buy a lock, just something.
Yeah, do anything. Do better. But let's see. Other things to wrap up. Veronica's mom is doing shady business deals with the mayor, who is Josie's mom. So we have to remember that tie-in. Luke Perry just had half of the dating pool that he's into exiled. Someone is stealing police evidence. We don't know who. And most importantly, we still have not uncovered the mystery of where Cheryl got those thigh-high boots from last episode.
The most pressing mystery of all.
I was really hoping for, some sort of closure to something here.
Well, I think it's going to be a multi-season arc finding out where Cheryl got those thigh-high boots.
Absolutely. But
want to do cringiest line department?
Yes. What lines have you got? I think I didn't have as many this time, and we might have covered most of them.
What was Cheryl's one with the I Spy with My Little Eye?
Oh, yeah.
That whole thing was bad. Although I am really looking forward to her upcoming children's book, I Spy a Drug Deal.
Yeah, there were fewer bad lines this episode. There were still some good ones, though. Like Miss Grundy's, "Oh, is this present to make me feel better about my tragic past?" That very natural and organic thing people say. But I think we covered most of the ones that I had written down. The stock character from tonight's teen movie made me cringe, but the one I am going to go with, I just hate when people disrespect my cinematic experience.
Oh yeah, that was Veronica after she claps back at the Southside Serpents.
Yeah, it was rough. I bet the people who wrote this really felt passionate about that line. I bet that they are people for whom that is a very true thing. People are disrespecting my cinematic experience.
They would hate going to the movies with me, where me and one of my friends will go to action movies, and then at random times when something happens and then there's a lull, we'll just loudly say, "That's neat." As far as cringiest lines, there was one where Archie and Betty are outside talking about how Archie has a booty tutor. Booty tutor's already a cringe line. Let's just get that out of the way. But Jughead tells Veronica not to interfere, and she says, "But you're you and I'm me. You do you, girl."
Yes.
Which, it seemed really forced, and it was just a bad line.
Is that Veronica's catchphrase? I swear she said that last episode, too.
She probably said something similar. I don't know, but my favorite was when Alice Cooper just shows up at Luke Perry's window and says, "I'm sorry to interrupt your adultery, Fred." Which, I want someone to say that to me at one point in my life. I want someone to say, "I'm sorry to interrupt your adultery."
Well, find yourself a disgraced wife of a former real estate magnate who is bribing gang members behind a drive-in movie theater, and I will say that to you.
Should be easy. I'll put that in my dating profile. That's what I'm looking for. Nothing less.
There was a fun one. I'm not going to say this was the cringiest line, but Veronica says, "Who or what are the Southside Serpents?" And Kevin very helpfully says, "They're this gang of bikers that pretty much stays in the South Side."
They're a gang of serpents who are on the South Side.
It's a snake-based organization.
As defined in Webster's dictionary, a serpent would be a snake or similar creature of reptilian descent. South Side would be not the North.
So do we have any predictions for the next episode?
Ooh, I've got a few. All right, here's one of the most important things. Archie is back on the market. how many episodes until he hooks up with someone else?
Like 10 seconds.
Then, like, that's the opening. Like, Jughead's got a monologue. Like, Archie, you would have thought he'd be feeling pretty bad after this, but man, like, Ice bounced back.
Look, you have to remember the theme of this show is Archie got hot. He has to find someone.
He's just gonna walk around shirtless until someone snaps him up.
He is Archie, the most fuckable kid in school. And there's gonna have to be some sort of competition. My prediction is there has to be a love triangle. They kind of squashed the Betty and Veronica one, but there has to be some sort of other competition. I don't know. I want that.
I guess Valerie from the Pussycats. She's a possibility.
Yes. That was my thing from episode 1. If that happens, then I feel like I deserve some sort of medal for predicting that from so far off.
All right. Well, if that happens, I will give you a medal, and everyone will admire it on our podcast where there are visuals.
Yes.
I'm hoping that Kevin will engage in some more ass kissing.
Oh my god.
Oh god.
That's literally, there's a James Bond movie that has a similar line from Roger Moore, which I'm gonna dig up for this.
Oh good.
My predictions are there will be several more suspects and they'll just all get away. Sheriff Keller will put up a new murder wall, but he'll quietly sigh to himself and say, it's just not as pretty as the last one was.
It's just not the same. Okay, my other prediction, because Luke Perry is Mr. Nice Guy, Jughead is going to end up moving in with him and Archie, and then that motherfucker's going to be staring out the bedroom window at Betty like his lips are glued to it.
No comment.
Oh.
Other prediction, because I always have to make an outlandish one, because sooner or later one's going to be true. The reason Alice Cooper is freaking out so much all the time is Polly is actually dead as well, and she's like keeping it quiet from Betty somehow. I don't know. I wouldn't put anything past the parents at this point.
Yeah, my prediction is that the Polly stuff, which seems to be building to a reveal that she's like psychotic and like can't be trusted, will actually go nowhere and she'll turn out to be fine. Just like an older, nice version of Betty.
I've been waiting for this character to show up. All right. I even in last episode had a moment of thought of like Polly is another personality in Betty's split psyche, but on reflection that didn't hold up. That was almost a prediction.
Do you have any predictions, Sarah?
It's really hard for me to participate in predictions because
you've seen it all.
Of knowing the answers.
You can give comedic predictions.
I mean, I already said ass kissing.
Yeah. Well, then I guess want to move on to scores?
Oh, man. Yeah.
I give this episode 2 out of 5 inexplicable biker gangs.
Oh, I need a good score.
Well, while you're thinking, I'll just say, like, it just wasn't as fun as the previous episodes. Very little seemed to have happened, and I was disappointed at how much of what did happen just fizzled and went nowhere. It was kind of a letdown. This was one of the harder ones to rewatch multiple times to get clippings and stuff.
Yeah. I'll give this booty tutor a 3 out of 5. I didn't get me my desired score on the SAT.
Oh, God.
We're going with bad puns, then I'm going to lean into it.
Fair enough. I would say this was, like a 3 out of 5 Lolita glasses.
Yeah, that's the one time she dressed like a human being. And like you could have had her like kind of be a little bit more Bombshell-esque in other scenes. Instead of, they always dress Miss Grundy in really drab outfits. If someone could shed light onto why, I'd really appreciate that.
Look, she took the identity of a dead woman, so she has to dress like a dead woman.
They background check these things if you work at a school. Are you dressing the part of the identity you stole?
Well, Riverdale's gonna need a new music teacher.
Yeah, what's gonna happen with Archie's music?
It's gonna be like a Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher situation where like every season we get a new music teacher.
Yes.
Oh, I can't wait for Professor Coral to show up.
Yes.
His facility with woodwinds is just top notch.
Yeah, is there any other notes that you guys want to cover?
Ooh, I think That's it?
Oh, I have one other prediction.
Go for it.
So, earlier in the episode, Veronica's mom asked her, have I ever lied to you? And I'm just like, there's going to be something more where she's just like, and also if anyone asks, your dad is definitely your biological father. There's going to be some sort of blow up of Lodge family drama sooner or later where like the dad's going to reappear.
Yeah, that seems likely. Yeah, I've got no more notes. I think that's it for this time.
Until the next episode, you can reach us on Twitter at Gritty Reboot Pod or by email at grittyrebootpodcast@gmail.com. We look forward to seeing you all in the next episode.